The ships came out of nowhere. One moment, the sky above New Geneva was clear and blue. The next moment, three massive vessels blocked out the sun. They were beautiful in a terrifying way. Their hulls shimmered like liquid silver. Strange lights pulsed along their surfaces in patterns that hurt the eyes to follow. Each ship was the size of a small city. People stopped in the streets. Cars crashed into each other as drivers forgot to watch the road. Children pointed at the sky while their parents pulled them close. The whole world seemed to hold its breath. This was first contact. Humanity had wondered for centuries if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. They were not alone, and their new neighbors had come to visit. The United Nations Space Authority scrambled every available craft. Fighters launched from bases around the world. Defense satellites turned their sensors toward the alien vessels. But everyone knew it was pointless. Those ships had crossed the stars. Human weapons were toys in comparison. The aliens made contact within the hour. They broadcast on every frequency, in every language. Their translation technology was perfect. Their message was simple. We are the emissary fleet of the Galactic Council. We come in peace. We wish to speak with your leaders. You have 24 hours to prepare? 24 hours, as if that was enough time to prepare for something like this. Secretary General Maria Santos had been in office for only 2 years. She was 53 years old, a former diplomat from Brazil, known for her calm under pressure and her sharp mind. She had handled wars, economic crises, and natural disasters. Nothing had prepared her for this. She stood in the main chamber of the UN headquarters, surrounded by representatives from every nation on Earth. The room was chaos. Everyone was talking at once. Fear and excitement mixed together in equal measure. "We need to attack first," shouted General Morrison of the United States, "before they attack us." "That is insane," replied Ambassador Chen from China. "They crossed interstellar space. They could destroy us without effort." "Perhaps they are friendly," suggested Dr. Okonkwo from Nigeria. "They said they come in peace." "Every conqueror says that," Morrison shot back. Santos raised her hand. The room slowly fell silent. She had that effect on people. When she spoke, others listened. "We will meet with them," she said. "We will hear what they have to say. We will not fire the first shot, but we will not bow either. We are humanity. We do not kneel to strangers." The meeting was arranged for the following day. The aliens sent a shuttle to the UN building. It landed in the plaza outside, burning the grass with its engines. A ramp extended from its side. The alien that walked down the ramp was unlike anything humanity had imagined. It stood 8 feet tall. Its body was made of what looked like living crystal, blue and purple, and constantly shifting. It had no face, but somehow Santos knew it was looking at her. "I am Velthrix," the alien said. Its voice came from everywhere and nowhere. "Ambassador of the crystalline hegemony, voice of the Galactic Council, I bring you greetings from the 47 elder species." Santos stepped forward. She was small compared to the alien, barely reaching its chest, but she stood straight and met its gaze, or where its gaze should have been. "I am Maria Santos, Secretary General of the United Nations. I speak for humanity. Welcome to Earth." Velthrix made a sound that might have been laughter. "Such formality, such pride. It is charming. Your species is very young, Secretary General, very new to the stars. Your first colony on Mars is only 30 years old. Your first interstellar vessel launched just last month. You are infants taking your first steps." "Every journey begins with a first step," Santos replied. "Indeed. And now you must learn the rules of the road." Velthrix waved one crystalline arm. A hologram appeared in the air between them. "The Galactic Council has governed this region of space for 12,000 years. Every species that achieves interstellar travel must accept integration into the Council. These are the standard terms." Santos studied the hologram. It took her a moment to understand what she was seeing. When she did, her face went pale. 30% of our resource output," she read, "paid annually as tribute. A small price for protection and guidance," Velthrix said. "Military conscription, 10,000 soldiers per year to serve in council enforcement fleets. A contribution to collective security. Technological licensing fees. All new developments must be approved by the council. Unauthorized research is forbidden. For your own safety, young species often develop dangerous technologies. You must be protected from yourselves. Santos looked up from the hologram. And if we refuse? Velthrix was silent for a long moment. The crystals of its body shifted from blue to deep purple. No species has ever refused. In 12,000 years, not one. The Council offers order, stability, peace. In exchange, it asks only for reasonable contributions. You ask for our freedom, Santos said quietly. Freedom is an illusion, Secretary General. Power is reality. The Council has power. You do not. Accept the terms, and your species will prosper under our protection. Refuse, and... Velthrix paused. But you will not refuse. No one ever does. Santos turned to face the crowd of diplomats and generals and scientists gathered behind her. She saw fear in their eyes. She also saw something else. Something that had carried humanity through ice ages and plagues and world wars. Something that had pushed them to cross oceans, climb mountains, and reach for the stars. She turned back to Velthrix. Ambassador, you say no species has ever refused. You say you have governed for 12,000 years. Perhaps that is true, but you have never met humanity before. She stepped closer to the towering alien. Her voice was calm and clear. We do not pay tribute to strangers. We do not send our children to fight in foreign wars. We do not ask permission to dream, to create, to grow. We bow to no one. Velthrix's body pulsed with color. You do not understand what you are saying. The Council has 300 species, thousands of warships, technology beyond your imagination. You cannot resist. Perhaps not, Santos agreed. Perhaps you will come with your fleets and your weapons. Perhaps you will burn our cities and break our armies. Perhaps you will win. She paused. The room was utterly silent. But you will not find us kneeling when you arrive. We will be standing. We will be fighting. And we will make you pay for every inch of ground in blood and fire. Because that is who we are. That is what it means to be human. She raised her chin. We will not yield. The words echoed through the chamber. They echoed across the world as billions watched the broadcast. They echoed into space where the alien ships waited. Velthrix stood motionless for a long moment. Then it turned and walked back toward its shuttle. At the top of the ramp, it paused. You have 90 days, Secretary General. 90 days to reconsider. After that, the Council will respond. It stepped inside. I have done this 43 times before. I have never failed. But I admit, none of them had your courage. It will make what comes next even more tragic. The shuttle lifted off. The 3 great ships broke orbit and vanished into the darkness between stars. Santos stood alone in the plaza, staring at the sky. Her hands were shaking. She had just defied an interstellar empire. She had just painted a target on all of humanity. General Morrison approached her. Madam Secretary, what have you done? She turned to face him. Her fear was gone now, replaced by something harder and brighter. I have given us 90 days, General. 90 days to prepare. 90 days to reach out to every nation, every scientist, every soldier on Earth. 90 days to show the galaxy what humanity can do when we work together. And if it is not enough, Santos smiled, and there was steel in that smile, then we will make them remember us. We will make them tell stories about the stubborn little species that refuse to kneel. We will make them afraid to demand tribute from the next young civilization they find. She looked up at the stars. Either way, we will not yield. Not today, not ever. The words spread across Earth like wildfire. In cities and villages, in languages spoken by millions and languages spoken by dozens, people repeated the phrase that would define their species. We will not yield. The countdown had begun. The Galactic Council chamber was a sphere of pure white light, floating in the void between stars. 47 species sent their representatives here. They sat in tiered rings, looking down at the central platform where speakers addressed the assembly. High Arbiter Zeth Mora of the Velkari Dominion stood at that platform now. The Velkari were tall and lean, with gray skin and 4 arms. They had served as the Council's military force for 8,000 years. They were very good at their job. The humans have refused integration, Zeth Mora announced. His voice carried to every corner of the chamber. Ambassador Velthrix delivered the standard terms. They were rejected. A murmur ran through the assembled representatives. Velthrix had indeed never failed before. "This is unexpected," said Counselor Yeath of the Kreth Collective, a species that resembled giant insects, but not concerning. Young species sometimes show spirit before they learn their place. Send a compliance fleet. The matter will be resolved. "The humans are different," Velthrix said. The crystalline ambassador stood at the edge of the platform. They did not refuse out of ignorance or pride. Their leader understood exactly what she was rejecting. She understood the consequences, and she refused anyway. "Then she is a fool," Yith replied, "and fools are taught through pain." "Perhaps." Velthrix's body shifted to a thoughtful shade of green. "But I have studied these humans since my return. They have a strange history. They fight constantly among themselves. Wars, conflicts, struggles for power. And yet, when threatened by outside forces, they unite with remarkable speed. They are not rational in the way we understand rationality. They would rather die free than live as servants." "Many species have said that," Zethmore observed. "None have meant it. When the fleets arrive, when the bombardment begins, they always surrender. Always. I hope you are correct, High Arbiter. But I recommend caution." Zethmore made a dismissive gesture with all four arms. "Caution is for the weak. The Velkari will assemble a compliance fleet, 300 warships. We will arrive at their system, destroy their outer colonies, and present new terms that include punishment for their defiance. This matter will be resolved within 60 days. The council voted. The decision was unanimous. A compliance fleet would be dispatched. No one noticed the small recording device hidden in the chamber. No one knew that every word spoken here was being transmitted across the stars to a planet called Earth. Secretary General Santos received the transmission in her private office. She watched the recording 3 times, memorizing every word, every gesture, every detail. Then she called a meeting of her most trusted advisors. 60 days, she said. That is how long we have before they arrive. General Morrison shook his head. 60 days to build a fleet that can match 300 warships? Impossible. Our entire Navy has perhaps 50 combat-capable vessels, and their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Then we will not fight them ship to ship, Santos replied. We will find another way. Dr. Annika Patel, head of the Space Authority's Science Division, leaned forward. The ambassador said something interesting. He said they have governed for 12,000 years. Every species that achieves interstellar travel must accept integration. That means there are other species out there. Species that were once free and are now paying tribute. Slaves, Morrison said. Subjects, Santos corrected. There is a difference. Slaves have no hope. Subjects still remember what freedom feels like, and people who remember freedom can be reminded. She activated the holographic display in the center of the table. A map of the local region of space appeared, dotted with hundreds of colored points. Our intelligence is limited, but we have been listening to alien transmissions since we achieved radio technology. We have identified at least 30 species within communication range. Several of them have sent signals that seem unhappy. References to the council that are less than worshipful. Complaints about tribute quotas and conscription demands. You want to start a rebellion? Morrison asked, incredulous. No, General. A rebellion would fail. We are too weak and they are too strong, but we can plant seeds. We can reach out to these species. We can ask questions. We can share information. We can remind them that the Council's power depends on everyone believing that resistance is impossible. She stood and walked to the window, looking up at the stars. The Council has ruled for 12,000 years because no one has ever challenged them. Their power is real, but it is also built on expectation. Everyone expects to lose, so everyone surrenders. But what happens when someone does not surrender? What happens when a young, foolish species looks at their demands and says no? They get destroyed, Morrison said flatly. Perhaps, or perhaps others start to wonder, if the humans can say no, why can't we? If the humans can resist, why do we pay tribute? The Council's power is a castle built on sand. All it takes is one wave to start it crumbling. Dr. Patel nodded slowly. It could work. But we would need to make contact quickly, and we would need to offer them something. Hope alone is not enough. Then we will give them more than hope. Sanos turned back to face her advisors. We will offer sanctuary. Any species that wishes to leave Council space can come to Earth. We will share our technology, our resources, our knowledge. We will build an alliance of the unwilling. And when the compliance fleet arrives, Santos smiled, then they will find more than just humans waiting for them. The messages went out that night, coded transmissions, hidden in commercial traffic and disguised as random noise. They traveled across light years, reaching a dozen species that had shown signs of discontent. The message was simple: you are not alone. We are humanity. We have refused the Council's demands. If you wish to speak with us, respond on this frequency. If you wish to join us, we will welcome you. If you wish to remain silent, we understand. But know this: the Council's power is not eternal. Change is coming. The first response came 3 days later. It was from a species called the Drelkai. They were miners, their homeworld rich in rare minerals that the Council demanded as tribute. For 600 years, they had watched their planet being stripped bare to feed the Council's industry. We have heard your message, they said. We have watched your defiance. We did not believe such a thing was possible. Tell us more. Sanos responded personally. She asked about their history, their culture, their dreams. She asked what the Council had taken from them and what they wished they could reclaim. She did not promise victory. She did not promise safety. She only promised that humanity would stand beside them, whatever came. More responses followed. The Fenari, a species of warriors whose population had been cut in half by conscription for Council wars. The Orcs, brilliant engineers forbidden from developing new technology. The Threll, philosophers forced to teach only Council-approved doctrines. Dozens of species, all with stories of loss and longing. Not all of them were ready to act. Many were too afraid, too beaten down by centuries of submission. But they listened, they remembered, and in quiet corners of the galaxy, hope began to stir. 40 days after humanity's refusal, the first ships arrived in the Sol system. They were small, old, barely spaceworthy. The Drelkai had sent 3 mining vessels, their crews defecting rather than continuing to strip their homeworld. The Fenari had sent 2 scout ships, crewed by soldiers who had grown tired of fighting the Council's wars. They came to Earth expecting to find a military fortress, a planet preparing for war. Instead, they found something that surprised them. They found humans laughing, humans working, humans raising children and building homes, and living their lives as if a fleet of 300 warships was not coming to destroy them. You are not afraid? Asked Captain Drell, commander of the lead mining vessel. Sanos met him at the landing pad. She looked up at the alien. He was shorter than her, squat and powerful, with stone-gray skin and hands built for digging. We are terrified, she admitted, but fear does not stop us from living. It does not stop us from hoping. And it does not stop us from fighting. She extended her hand in the human gesture of greeting. Welcome to Earth, Captain. Welcome to the beginning of something new. Drell took her hand. His grip was strong, his skin rough, but his eyes, black and deep as mine shafts, held something that had been missing for centuries. Hope. We are few, he said. We are weak. The Council will crush us. Perhaps, Santos agreed, but we will face them together. And even if we fall, we will have shown the galaxy that resistance is possible. That alone is worth any price. More ships came in the following days. By the time the compliance fleet launched from Council space, Earth was no longer alone. 37 vessels from 11 species had gathered in the Sol system. They were old, poorly armed, and badly outnumbered. But they were free, and they would not yield. Admiral Keithrall of the Valkyrie stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Absolute Compliance, and watched the stars blur past. 300 warships followed in her wake, each one a masterpiece of 12,000 years of military engineering. Together, they represented more firepower than most species could imagine. She had done this before. 37 times she had led compliance fleets to stubborn worlds. 37 times she had demonstrated the Council's power. 37 times the target species had surrendered after seeing what her ships could do. This mission would be no different. The humans were brave, she admitted. Foolish, but brave. Their defiance had caused some minor disruptions, a few species questioning their tribute payments, some seditious talk in distant sectors. Nothing serious. Once Earth burned, the galaxy would remember its place. Her first officer, Commander Veth, approached with a data tablet. Admiral, we have updated intelligence on the Sol system. Show me. The holographic display above the command table flickered to life. Kethril studied the image with growing surprise. Those are not all human ships, she observed. No, Admiral. We have identified vessels from the Drelkai, Fenari, Oryx, and at least 8 other species. Approximately 140 vessels in total. 140 against 300. Those are better odds than I expected. Kethral zoomed in on the human ships. They were strange designs, blocky, practical, lacking the elegant curves of council vessels. What do we know about their capabilities? Very little, Admiral. The humans have only been spacefaring for a few decades. Their technology should be primitive, but Veth hesitated. Speak. They have been advancing quickly. Their ships use design principles we do not fully understand, and they have been sharing technology with the other species in their alliance. Kethril considered this. It does not matter. We outnumber them 2 to 1. Our weapons are superior. Our shields are stronger. This will be a brief engagement. Yes, Admiral. Veth paused again. There is one other matter. What? Crew morale, Admiral. Some of our personnel have been questioning the mission. Kethral's forearms tensed. Questioning? The humans have been broadcasting messages throughout the fleet. They speak of freedom, of choice, of the right to determine one's own future. Some of our crew come from conscripted species. They are listening. Then they should listen more carefully. Kethral's voice was cold. I was born on a world that pays tribute to the Council. My family has served in Council fleets for 6 generations. I understand the system, Commander. It is not perfect, but it provides order. It provides stability. The alternative is chaos. I understand, Admiral. I will remind the crew of their duties. Do that. And Veth, find whoever is receiving those human transmissions. Put them in the brig until this is over. The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. Kethral stood at the center of her bridge, watching the tactical display update with new information. The human alliance was waiting for them. Their ships were arranged in a defensive formation around the 3rd planet, Earth. Behind them, she could see the orbital facilities they had built in the last 90 days. Weapons platforms, shield generators, mining stations that could be converted to defensive positions. They have been busy, she admitted. Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the human flagship. Put it through. The face that appeared on screen was familiar. Kethral had studied this human extensively. Secretary General Maria Santos, the leader who had refused the Council's demands. Admiral Kethral, Santos said, welcome to our system. I hope your journey was pleasant. It was adequate. Kethral studied the human. She was small, fragile-looking, with dark hair streaked with gray and eyes that seemed too old for her face. You know why we are here? I do. You have come to teach us our place, to show us the price of defiance, to make an example that the rest of the galaxy will remember. Yes, I am glad you understand. Santos smiled. It was not a frightened smile. I understand perfectly, Admiral, but I wonder if you do. Explain yourself. You see 140 ships crewed by rebels and outcasts. You see a young species that has overreached. You see a problem to be solved with overwhelming force. Santos leaned closer to the camera. But that is not what is really in front of you. Then what is? A choice, Admiral. Yours and your crew's. Kethral frowned. There is no choice. We have our orders. You will surrender or be destroyed. There is always a choice. Santos's voice was gentle now, almost sad. You come from a world that pays tribute. Your crew includes soldiers conscripted from a dozen subjugated species. They serve because they were told they had no alternative. They fight because they were taught that resistance is impossible. Get to your point, human. My point is this. Look at what stands before you. Drelkai, who refused to let their world be stripped bare. Fenari, who decided their lives were worth more than dying in the Council's wars, Oryx, who remembered what it felt like to create, to innovate, to dream. They are not rebels, Admiral. They are people who discovered they had a choice. Santos stood back, spreading her arms. And so do you. So does every being on every ship in your fleet. You can follow your orders. You can destroy us. The Council's power will continue, and nothing will change. Or you can ask yourself a question that no one in 12,000 years has dared to ask. What question? Why? Santos let the word hang in the air. Why do you serve the Council? Because you believe in their cause? Or because you were never shown another way? Why do you fight? Because you choose to? Or because you were told you must? I fight because it is my duty. Duty to whom? To the Council that takes your children to die in foreign wars? To the arbiters who grow rich while your people grow poor? To a system that treats living beings as resources to be exploited? Kethral said nothing. Around her, the bridge had gone very quiet. I am not asking you to betray your people, Admiral. I am asking you to save them. Join us, and we will build something new together. Not an empire built on fear and tribute, but an alliance built on cooperation and choice. We do not want to fight you. We want to stand beside you. You are asking me to throw away everything I have ever believed. No. Santa shook her head. I am asking you to believe in something better. The transmission ended. Kethral stood motionless, staring at the blank screen. Commander Veth approached cautiously. Admiral, what are your orders? Kethral did not answer immediately. She turned to look at the crew members around her. Velkari, yes, but also conscripts from half a dozen other species. They were watching her, waiting for her decision. She thought about her homeworld. She thought about her family, serving the Council for generations because that was simply what they did. She thought about the tribute payments that left her people hungry while Council elites lived in luxury. She thought about the endless wars, the lost friends, the empty promises of glory. She thought about the humans' words. Why? She had never asked that question. No one ever had. Admiral, Veth said again, the fleet is awaiting orders. Do we engage? Kethral looked at the tactical display. 140 ships against 300. The odds were in her favor. Victory was assured. But what would victory mean? Another subjugated species, another world paying tribute, another generation of children sent to die in wars they did not choose. And what would defeat mean? Change, chaos perhaps, but also possibility. Open a channel, she said quietly, to the entire fleet. Veth looked uncertain but complied. Channel open. Admiral? Kethral took a deep breath. In the next few moments, she would either end her career or begin something unprecedented. She thought of her ancestors, of everything they had fought for. Then she thought of everything they had lost. All ships, she said. This is Admiral Kethral. Hold your fire. I repeat, hold your fire. We will not engage the human alliance. The channel erupted with voices, questions, protests, demands for explanation. Kethral ignored them all. I have served the Council for 40 years, she continued. I have followed orders without question. Today I am asking a question, and I invite each of you to ask it with me. She paused. The humans have offered us a choice no one has offered us in 12,000 years. I do not know if they are right. I do not know if their alliance can succeed. But I know this. I am tired of fighting for a cause I no longer believe in. She looked at the screen showing the human fleet. Any ship that wishes to join me, break formation. Any ship that wishes to continue to Earth, do so without my blessing. But know this, I will stand with the humans. I will find out what it means to choose. For a long moment, nothing happened. The 300 ships hung motionless in the void. Then one ship moved. A small cruiser, crewed mostly by Fenari conscripts. It broke formation and moved toward the human line. Then another and another. By the time it was over, 93 ships had joined Kethral. 93 ships whose crews had heard the question and found the courage to answer. The remaining 200 ships withdrew. They had no orders for this situation. No one had ever imagined that a compliance fleet might choose not to comply. And in the space between the fleets, Admiral Ketharal opened a channel to Maria Santos. "Secretary General," she said, "I am listening." The news spread across the galaxy like fire in dry grass. A compliance fleet had refused to comply. Admiral Ketharal, one of the most decorated officers in Council history, had defected. 93 warships now floated in orbit around Earth, their weapons silent, their crews learning a new word: choice. In the Council chamber, chaos reigned. Representatives shouted over each other, demanding explanations, placing blame, calling for immediate military action. High Arbiter Zethmora stood at the central platform, his gray face darker than anyone had ever seen. "This is impossible," he said for the 100th time. "Ketharal has served for 40 years. She has never questioned an order, never shown doubt. This must be human trickery, some kind of mind control technology." "The humans have no such technology," Ambassador Velthrix replied. "I have studied them extensively. They do not manipulate minds. They do something far more dangerous." "What?" "They ask questions." The chamber fell silent. Velthrix's crystalline form shifted to a deep, troubled purple. "The humans did not defeat our fleet with weapons. They defeated it with ideas. They asked our soldiers why they fight. They asked our conscripts why they serve. They offered a different answer than the one we have given for 12,000 years. Then we will give them war," Zethmora growled. "We will send every ship in the Dominion. We will burn their world to ashes. We will make such an example that no one will ever question the Council again. And how many of those ships will defect when they hear the human message? How many soldiers will ask themselves the same questions that Ketharal asked?" Zethmora had no answer. On Earth, the defecting ships had landed on every continent. Their crews, uncertain and frightened, stepped onto alien soil for the first time. They expected hostility. They expected guards and prisons and interrogations. Instead, they found something else. They found welcome. Maria Santos had given strict orders. Every defector was to be treated as a guest, not a prisoner. They were offered food, shelter, medical care. They were asked nothing except what they needed. Admiral Ketharal met with Santos personally. They sat together in a small garden behind the UN building, surrounded by flowers that the Velkari had never seen before. "I still do not fully understand what I have done," Ketharal admitted. "My entire life I followed the path that was laid out for me. Serve the Council, follow orders, ask no questions. Now," she spread all four arms in a gesture of helplessness, "now I do not know who I am." "You are the same person you always were," Santos said. "You are simply discovering parts of yourself that you were never allowed to explore. The Council will come for us. What I did, what we did, they cannot let it stand. They will send everything they have. I know. We cannot defeat them. Even with the defecting ships, we are vastly outnumbered. Their technology is still superior. We have bought time, nothing more." Santos plucked a flower from the garden, a simple daisy. She twirled it between her fingers. "Do you know what this is, Admiral? A plant, a decorative organism. It is called a daisy. It grows everywhere on Earth, in fields and cracks in pavement, in the most unlikely places. It is small and fragile. A strong wind can knock it down. An animal can crush it with a single step. I do not see your point. The point is that daisies keep growing. You can tear them out, burn them, poison the soil, and still they return. Not because any single daisy is strong, but because there are always more. Because the seeds spread everywhere. Because life wants to continue." Santos looked up at the sky, where the defecting ships hung in orbit. "We may not win this war, Admiral. The Council may come with their fleets and their weapons. They may burn Earth to ashes, but the idea we have planted will not die. Already other species have heard what happened here. Already they are asking the same questions you asked. Every world that watches our defiance, every being that hears our message, they become seeds, and seeds spread. You are willing to die for an idea? I am willing to die for the chance that my children, or my children's children, will live in a galaxy where no one demands tribute, where no one is conscripted to fight wars they did not choose, where everyone has the right to ask why." Ketharal was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter. On my world, we have a story, an old story from before the council came. It tells of a single flame that was kept burning through a long, dark winter. Everyone said the flame was pointless. The winter would last forever. The darkness would never end. But the people who tended the flame believed otherwise. They kept it burning, generation after generation, until finally the spring came. What happened then? The flame was used to light every hearth on our world. The cold that had lasted centuries ended in a single day. Kethral looked at Santos with new understanding. You are the flame, aren't you? Not because you are strong, not because you will win, but because you will not go out. We will not go out, Santos agreed. And neither will you. Neither will the Drelkai, or the Fenari, or any of the others who have joined us. Together we are a fire that the council cannot extinguish. They will try. Let them. Every ship they send, every world they threaten, every act of violence they commit, it only proves that they are afraid, and fear is the beginning of doubt. Doubt is the beginning of questions. Questions are the beginning of change. The two leaders sat together in the garden as the sun set over New Geneva. Above them, the stars were beginning to appear. Somewhere out there, a fleet was gathering. Somewhere out there, the council was planning its response. But here, on this small world at the edge of explored space, something new was growing. An alliance of the unwilling, a coalition of the hopeful, a rebellion not of weapons, but of ideas. In the weeks that followed, more ships arrived. Some were defectors from council space, soldiers who had heard what happened and decided to risk everything for a chance at freedom. Some were refugees, fleeing worlds where the council had increased tribute demands in response to the crisis. Some were simply curious, wanting to see for themselves the species that had said no. Earth became a meeting place, a crossroads, a symbol. Humans worked side by side with beings they had never imagined. Drelkai miners taught human engineers new techniques for asteroid harvesting. Fenari soldiers trained alongside human marines. Orcs inventors collaborated with human scientists, combining their forbidden knowledge with humanity's fresh perspective. And everywhere, in every conversation, the same words were spoken, the words that had started everything. We will not yield. Admiral Kethral stood on the observation deck of her flagship, now docked at a human station for repairs and upgrades. She watched the activity below, hundreds of beings from dozens of species, working together with a purpose she had never seen in council space. Commander Veth approached. Admiral, intelligence reports suggest the council is assembling a massive fleet, over 1,000 warships from multiple species. They will launch within 60 days. I know. We cannot defeat such a force. I know that too. Then what do we do? Kethral turned to face her old friend. They had served together for 20 years, followed the same orders, asked none of the same questions. Now everything was different. We do what the humans do, she said. We keep the flame burning. We spread the message. We make sure that even if we fall, others will rise. The council can destroy ships. They cannot destroy ideas. Is that enough? I do not know. Kethral looked back at the stars. But I know this. For the first time in my life, I am not fighting because I was told to. I am fighting because I choose to. That makes every moment worthwhile. She straightened her uniform, the same uniform she had worn in council service, but now marked with a new symbol, a simple circle with a flame at its center, the emblem of the coalition of free worlds. Come, Commander, we have work to do, and only 60 days to do it. Together they walked back into the ship. Behind them, Earth turned slowly in the darkness, a small blue world that had started a revolution, not with weapons, but with words. The council was coming. 1,000 warships, overwhelming force, certain victory. But the flame still burned, and flames have a way of spreading. The council fleet was the largest military force assembled in 3,000 years. 1,200 warships from 27 species, dreadnoughts the size of cities, cruisers bristling with weapons, fighters numbering in the hundreds of thousands. At its head flew the Eternal Order, the Council's flagship, a vessel so ancient and powerful that it had never fired its weapons in anger. It had never needed to. Its presence alone had ended wars. High Arbiter Zeth Mora stood on its bridge, watching the stars. This would be his legacy. the fleet that crushed the human rebellion, the force that reminded the galaxy of its proper order. "We enter the Sol system in 6 hours," his commander reported. "The Coalition fleet is holding position around Earth. Approximately 400 vessels. 400 against 1,200. Zeth Mora smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "They have grown since we last met them, but not enough. Not nearly enough. There is one other matter, Arbiter." "What?" "We are receiving transmissions from the Coalition. They are broadcasting on all frequencies, in all languages." "Ignore them. Their words are poison." "The crews are listening, Arbiter. We cannot stop them without shutting down all communications." Zeth Mora turned to face his commander. "Then shut them down." "That would leave us unable to coordinate our fleet." For a long moment, Zeth Mora said nothing. The humans had found a way to attack them without weapons. Their words spread through his fleet like a virus, infecting minds, raising doubts. Even now, even on the eve of their destruction, they were fighting. "Increase jamming on all frequencies, limit the transmissions as much as possible, and remind all crew members that listening to enemy propaganda is punishable by death." "Yes, Arbiter." But even as the order went out, Zeth Mora knew it would not be enough. The words were already spreading, the questions were already being asked. He had to end this quickly, before the infection spread too far. Maximum speed to Earth. "We end this today." The Coalition fleet waited. Admiral Kethral stood on the bridge of the Absolute Compliance, now renamed the New Dawn. Around her, humans and aliens worked side by side, monitoring systems, coordinating with other ships, preparing for the battle that everyone knew they could not win. Maria Santos stood beside her. The Secretary General had insisted on being present. If humanity was going to fall, she would fall with it. "They outnumber us 3-1, Kethral observed. "Their ships are more powerful. Their technology is more advanced. By every measure, we should surrender." "Should we?" "No." Kethral allowed herself a small smile. "Surrender was never really an option, was it?" "Not for us, but we are not the ones who need to choose today." Santos pointed at the approaching fleet. Even at this distance, it was visible as a cloud of lights against the stars. There are over 2 million beings on those ships. Soldiers, engineers, crew. Most of them are conscripts. Most of them have families on worlds that pay tribute. Most of them have never asked themselves why they fight. And you think they will ask today? I think we will give them every reason to. Santos turned to the communications officer. "Lieutenant, begin the broadcast." The message went out on every frequency, in every language. Not a speech this time, but stories. Testimonies from defectors who had joined the Coalition. Drelkai miners describing how the Council had stripped their world bare. Fenari soldiers recounting the wars they had been forced to fight. Oryx engineers mourning the innovations they had been forbidden to create. And humans, thousands of humans, explaining why they had refused to yield. The stories flowed through space, reaching every ship in the Council fleet. They could not be blocked without shutting down all communications. They could not be countered with propaganda. They were simply true. On the Eternal Order, Zeth Mora watched his tactical display with growing alarm. "Arbiter, we are detecting communications within our fleet, internal transmissions between ships." "What are they saying?" "They are sharing the Coalition broadcasts, discussing them. Some crews are questioning their orders." "This is mutiny. Have the captains arrest anyone spreading sedition?" "Arbiter, on some ships, the captains are the ones asking questions." Zeth Mora slammed his fist against the console. This was impossible. The Council had ruled for 12,000 years. No one questioned its authority. No one dared. But someone had dared. The humans had dared. And now their defiance was spreading like a plague through his fleet. "All ships, attack formation. We end this now, before—" "Arbiter!" His commander's voice was urgent. "Multiple ships breaking formation. The 8th through 12th patrol groups. They are moving toward the Coalition line. Fire on them. Arbiter, fire on them. Destroy any ship that defects." The order went out. 3 Council warships opened fire on their own comrades. 2 defecting cruisers were destroyed instantly, but the 3rd, a heavy carrier, survived long enough to return fire. A Council dreadnought took heavy damage, and then everything fell apart. The defections cascaded. Crews that had been uncertain, crews that had been afraid, suddenly found their courage. If the Council would fire on its own ships, then the Council was truly the enemy. One by one, then in groups, then in waves, ships broke formation and fled toward the coalition line. Zeth Mora watched in disbelief as his fleet tore itself apart, defectors clashing with loyalists. Ships that had served together for decades now exchanging fire. The perfect order of the Council dissolving into chaos. "This cannot be happening," he whispered. "This cannot be happening." But it was. And at the center of it all, the coalition fleet advanced, not to attack, but to protect. They moved to cover the defecting ships, shielding them from Council fire. They opened their ranks to welcome new allies, and on every frequency, the same words echoed. "You have a choice. Join us. Be free." By the time it was over, more than half the Council fleet had defected or been destroyed. The Eternal Order, surrounded by the shattered remnants of its armada, hung alone in space. A symbol of power become a symbol of defeat. Zeth Mora received one final transmission from the new dawn. Maria Santos appeared on his screen, her face calm, her voice steady. "High Arbiter, your fleet is broken. Your soldiers have chosen freedom over servitude. The battle is over, but we offer you what we offered everyone else today, a choice." "What choice?" "You can retreat to Council space and tell them what happened here. You can spend the rest of your life fighting to hold together an empire that is already crumbling. Or you can join us. You can help us build something new." "You are naive, human. The Council still controls 1,000 worlds. This defeat changes nothing." "This defeat changes everything." Santos smiled gently. "For 12,000 years, everyone believed that resistance was impossible. Today, we proved them wrong. Tomorrow, that knowledge will spread to every corner of the galaxy. The day after, someone else will say no. Then someone else. Then someone else. The Council's power was never in their ships or their weapons. It was in the belief that they could not be challenged. We have shattered that belief. There is no going back." Seth Morris stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly he gave the order to retreat. The Eternal Order turned and fled, followed by the tattered remnants of the Council fleet. They left behind a solar system filled with the wreckage of battle and the beginnings of hope. 1 year later, the Galactic Council met in emergency session, but the chamber that had once held 47 species now held only 23. The others had left. Some had joined the coalition. Others had simply stopped paying tribute, stopped sending conscripts, stopped following orders. The tribute system was collapsing. Without resources flowing in from subject worlds, the Council's economy faltered. Without conscript soldiers, their military shrank. Without the belief in their own invincibility, their authority evaporated. On Earth, representatives from over 100 species gathered for the first Congress of Free Worlds. They came to discuss trade, cooperation, mutual defense. They came to write a charter that guaranteed the right of every species to determine its own future. Maria Santos spoke at the opening ceremony. She was older now, her hair fully gray, her face lined with exhaustion and triumph. But her voice was as strong as ever. "We gather here not as conquerors, but as partners. Not as an empire, but as an alliance. We do not demand tribute. We do not conscript soldiers. We do not forbid innovation or suppress questions. We ask only one thing of each other, that we remember what brought us together." She looked out at the assembly, humans and Velkari, Drelkai and Fenari, Oryx and Threll, and dozens more. Species that had been enemies, species that had been slaves, species that had found each other in the darkness and discovered they were not alone. We said no to the demands of tyrants. We said no to a system that treated people as resources. We said no to 12,000 years of submission. And when they came to punish us for our defiance, we stood together. We did not yield. She raised her hand, and across the chamber, 1,000 beings rose with her. "We will never yield, and neither will any world that joins us. This is our promise. This is our legacy. This is our gift to every species that will ever reach for the stars." The words echoed through the chamber, out into space, across a galaxy that was slowly, painfully, beautifully learning to be free. And in the hearts of 100 different species, on 1,000 different worlds, The flame burned on.